In the timeless expanse of the celestial realm, the immortal venerable Yichen sat upon a throne carved from a fallen star, his eyes closed. For millennia, they had held the placid indifference of a god, and now, his tranquil facade shattered. A thread of fate, spun 1,000 lifetimes ago, had frayed, threatening to snap. He felt her, his Minga, his Jawa, her life force in the mortal realm guttering like a candle in a gale. It was a pain more acute than any celestial trial, a spiritual wound that rips through eons of composure. Without a second thought, he shattered the law of non-interference. Reality warped around him as he reached across dimensions, his divine will a spear thrown into the heart of a world he had long forsaken. His power, vast and cosmic, located her faint energy signature. She was dying. To breach the veil was costly, but to lose her again was unthinkable. With a swift, merciless motion, he summoned the spirit of the Killin, a divine beast of pure life essence. Its ethereal form shimmered, then condensed under the crushing force of his will into a single, incandescent drop of golden elixir. He sent it forth, a prayer and a command, knowing it would drain him, leaving him vulnerable, but it was a price he would pay without hesitation. In a sterile, opulent bedroom in the heart of the city, Minga Zhao's breath was a shallow whisper. Patriarch Xi gripped his daughter's cold hand, his face a mask of despair as machines beeped a rhythm of defeat. Suddenly, a mote of golden light materialized above Minga, descending into her chest and dissolving into her skin. A frantic beeping slowed, steadied. Color flooded her pale cheeks, and her eyes fluttered open. She was alive. But as she tried to shift, a terrifying emptiness greeted her. Her legs were numb, lifeless. Just then, the door opened to admit Master Yi, a man whose ancient robes and serene smile concealed the avarice of a vulture. He surveyed the scene with practiced solemnity. "It is done," he announced, his voice echoing with false authority. "The immortal ancestor Yi has answered your prayers and granted Miss Zhao a second chance at life." Patriarch Xi fell to his knees. "Master Yi, a miracle, but her legs." Yi stroked his long, white beard, his gaze sweeping over Minga's weakened form. "The intervention was successful, but her young energy is critically depleted. The paralysis is a symptom of this void. Her very soul is imbalanced." He leaned closer, his tone dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "There is only one remedy powerful enough to restore her, the purest form of young transference. Dual cultivation, anything." The patriarch begged, tears streaming down his face. "Tell me what to do to save her. She must be tethered to a source of immense yang," Yi declared, his eyes glinting. "She must marry me. It is the will of the heavens. The ceremony must be in 3 days, or the celestial grace will fade, and she will be lost forever." In the celestial realm, Yichen staggered, the effort of his intervention leaving him drained. The connection to Mingo was now a phantom whisper, masked by a foul, parasitic energy. An impostor, fury, cold and absolute, coursed through him. He had to find her before this charlatan could harm her further. Time was running out. 2 days later, Minga sat in her wheelchair, the city a blur of noise and color she felt detached from. Her maid, Xian, pushed her along the bustling sidewalk, her brow furrowed with concern. "Miss Zhao, are you certain about this marriage? Master Yi is, he's ancient, and this dual cultivation sounds like something from a fantasy novel, not a medical treatment." Minga offered a weak smile, the effort costing her. "He saved my life, Xian. Father believes in him completely. What choice do I have?" She felt a crushing sense of obligation, a debt she was being forced to pay with her entire future. It felt less like a marriage and more like a sacrifice. Her morbid thoughts were cut short by the screech of tires. A delivery scooter, weaving recklessly through traffic, clipped a car and went spinning directly toward them. Xian screamed, trying to pull the wheelchair back. And it was too late. Minga squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable crash. But the impact never came. A profound stillness descended, silencing the city's roar. When she dared to open her eyes, she found her wheelchair resting safely on the sidewalk, a good 10 feet from the accident. Standing before her, radiating an aura of calm authority that defied the chaos around him, was a man. He was dressed in simple black, yet he seemed more regal than any king. His features were devastatingly handsome, but it was his eyes that held her captive. They were as deep and ancient as the night sky, and they were fixed on her with an unnerving intensity. "Wife," he said, his voice a low, resonant timbre that seemed to vibrate in her very bones. "I finally found you." Xian, recovering from the shock, immediately stepped between them. "Who do you think you are? Get away from Miss Chow. Don't you dare harass her." Minga stared, bewildered. A strange, phantom echo of familiarity tugged at her memory, a feeling she couldn't place. "Sir, you must be mistaken," she said, her voice polite but firm. The man, Yi, paid Xian no mind. His entire universe had contracted to the woman in the wheelchair. "There is no mistake," he insisted, his gaze unwavering. "You are Minga, and you are mine." The sheer audacity of his claim should have been laughable, but his conviction was unsettling. Minga straightened herself as much as she could. "I appreciate you helping just now, but I am engaged. I'm to be married tomorrow to the man who saved my life, Master Yi." A flicker of cold, dangerous amusement lit Yi's eyes. "That charlatan. He did not save you." "I did." He took a step closer, his presence so overwhelming that Xian instinctively flinched. "And I will be the one to annul this ridiculous engagement." He turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd as effortlessly as he had appeared, leaving a stunned silence in his wake. Later that night, Minga sat by the panoramic window of her apartment, the city lights below feeling a world away. The stranger's words echoed in her mind, a bizarre counterpoint to the dread of her impending wedding. The air in the room suddenly chilled. She turned and gasped. He was there, standing in the center of her room as if he had stepped from the shadows themselves. He held a simple roasted fish, wrapped in a large, green leaf, the savory aroma filling the space. "How did you get in here?" she whispered, her heart hammering against her ribs. She wasn't afraid, but an inexplicable awe held her frozen. "The impostor's methods are crude," Yi stated, his voice devoid of emotion as he placed the offering on her table. "He stabilized your shell but left your core empty. This will restore what you've lost." His command was simple: "Eat." She should have screamed for security, but his gaze held a primordial truth that disarmed her. Remembering the impossible way he had saved her on the street, she was compelled by an instinct older than reason. She picked up the fish. The flesh was tender, flaking at her touch. She took a small, hesitant bite. The effect was instantaneous and violent. It was not just heat. It was like swallowing a piece of the sun. A searing, white-hot energy erupted in her stomach, flooding her veins with liquid fire. Every cell in her body screamed as the potent young energy surged through her, a purifying agony that threatened to tear her apart from the inside out. Her back arched, a silent scream trapped in her throat as her world dissolved into pure, blinding pain. The world returned to Minga Jiao not in a rush, but as a gentle tide. The scent of damp earth and pine needles filled her senses before the muted green of a forest canopy filled her vision. She was lying on a bed of moss, softer than any mattress, with a man's jacket draped over her. Yichen. He knelt beside her, his palm hovering inches from her chest, a faint, warm light pulsing from his hand. Memory flooded back the agonizing surge of energy, the collapse, him sweeping her into his arms. Fury, sharp and protective, eclipsed her confusion. "What have you done to me?" she demanded, scrambling to sit up. The movement was a shock. It was fluid, effortless. There was no familiar ache in her joints, no tremor of weakness in her limbs. Wowie! You can't just take me. Yichen withdrew his hand, his expression unreadable but for the deep, ancient sorrow in his eyes. Your energy was overflowing. Your mortal body couldn't contain it. I brought you here to stabilize you, stabilize me. She scoffed, her voice laced with the bitterness of a long-suffering patient. You think you know more than Master Yi. He is a living immortal, a descendant of the great ancestor Yi. He was healing me. He was draining you, Yichen stated, his tone flat and absolute, leaving no room for argument. The young deficiency he claimed to be treating was a lie. I have not merely stabilized your energy. I have healed you. Completely, Minga's breath hitched, healed. The word was a fantasy, a cruel joke she'd stopped letting herself believe. Driven by a desperate, defiant impulse, she pushed herself up. She planted her feet on the ground, braced for the usual searing pain. The inevitable collapse, but it never came. She stood. Her legs, which had felt like brittle glass for years, were solid beneath her. She took a hesitant step, then another. The ground felt firm, real. Strength, pure and clean, flowed through her. She could feel the muscles in her calves, the solid connection of bone and sinew working in perfect harmony. It was a miracle she had been promised by Master Yi, a debt she was preparing to pay with her life and freedom. Yet here, in the hands of this enigmatic stranger, it had been granted. A seed of doubt, cold and sharp, pierced the carefully constructed faith she had placed in her supposed savior. Before she could voice the question forming in her mind, the forest's tranquility was shattered. There, over here, a voice shouted. Seconds later, her father, Patriarchy, burst through the tree line, flanked by a half-dozen grim-faced family guards. Xian, her supposed best friend and Master Yi's devoted disciple, pointed a trembling, accusatory finger. Father, he kidnapped her. I saw him carry her away. Patriarch Zhao's face was a mask of thunderous rage. His eyes locked onto Yichen, then flickered to Minga's disheveled state and the man's jacket covering her. He saw not a rescue, but a defilement. You bastard! He roared, ignoring his daughter completely. How dare you lay your filthy hands on my child? Seize him, father. No, you don't understand. Minga cried, stepping in front of Yichen. The guards hesitated, stunned to see her standing so steadily. He helped me, my legs I can walk. Her father's gaze hardened, his fury curdling into cold disdain. Master Yi's divine treatment is finally taking full effect. No thanks to this degenerate. He saw an opportunity and took advantage of you in your moment of weakness. He refused to look at his daughter's miraculous recovery as anything other than proof of Master Yi's power. To him, Yichen was simply a rogue attempting to steal the credit. That's not true, Minga insisted, her voice trembling with frustration. We didn't do anything. He saved my life. That her words were whispers against a hurricane. Patriarchy waved a dismissive hand, his authority absolute. You are confused. This charlatan has poisoned your mind. You will marry Master Yi as planned and repay the debt for your life. Throughout the tirade, Yichen remained perfectly still, a rock in a raging river. When the patriarch finally paused for breath, Yichen's voice cut through the tension, calm and unwavering. I will not allow it, he said, his eyes fixed on the older man. He then uttered the words that sealed his fate in the patriarch's mind. Father-in-law, you should not be so quick to give away your daughter. The insult hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Patriarch Zhao's face turned a dangerous shade of purple. Insolent dog, you will never see her again. The reflection in the grand, gold-leafed mirror was a stranger, a beautiful, tragic doll swathed in layers of white silk, An intricate lace, a diamond tiara weighing down her head like a crown of thorns. On her wedding day, Minga felt nothing but a hollow resignation. Her father had forbidden her from speaking of Yichen, labeling him a madman and a criminal. Her attempts to explain the truth were dismissed as hysterical delusions. She was trapped, bound by perceived debt to Master Yi and the unyielding will of her family. This was her fate. She would marry the man who had supposedly saved her, and pray the creeping doubt in her heart would eventually die. The wedding hall buzzed with the hushed reverence of high society. Out of the aisle, Master Yi stood, radiating a false, beatific grandeur. He wore ceremonial white robes embroidered with golden dragons, his face a perfect mask of serene benevolence. He accepted the fawning praise of the guests, a living god among mortals, the very image of the immortal ancestor he claimed to be. The officiant's voice droned on, a meaningless hum in the cavernous space. When the moment came, Master Yi's voice boomed with practiced confidence. I do. All eyes turned to Minga. The weight of their expectation was a physical force, pressing down on her, stealing the air from her lungs. She opened her mouth. The lie she was supposed to tell lodged in her throat like a shard of glass. Say it. It's for the family, it's your duty. Just as she drew a breath to force out the word, a thunderous crash ripped through the hall. The towering oak doors at the entrance splintered inward, exploding into a shower of wood and metal. Standing silhouetted against the blinding afternoon light was Yichen. He was no longer the quiet, unassuming man from the forest. He stood with an imposing stillness that commanded the attention of every soul in the room, his presence eclipsing the false light of the impostor at the altar. This wedding is a sham. His voice resonated with absolute authority. He pointed not at the bride, but at the groom. And you are a fraud, then? His gaze softened as if found Minga's, her promise of ages flashing in their depths. She is, and always has been, my wife. Gasps and furious murmurs erupted. Madman, patriarchs, he bellowed, his face contorted with fury. Security, get him out of here. Yichen. No. Minga whispered desperately, her heart seizing with terror. You don't know who he is. He has celestial power. Master Yi's serene facade finally cracked. Rage, black and ugly, twisted his features. To be challenged so publicly, his divinity questioned it was an unforgivable offense. You court death, little insect, he snarled, his voice losing its ethereal quality and becoming gratingly human. He raised his hand, channeling the stolen energy he barely controlled. A shimmering, golden energy coalesced around his palm. Witness the might of an immortal, dragon-subduing palm. He thrust his hand forward, unleashing a blast of power meant to not merely subdue, but obliterate the man who dared defy him. The guests cried out, shielding their eyes from the blinding light. Minga's world narrowed to the terrifying, golden projectile hurtling toward a man she now realized she could not bear to lose. But Yichen did not move, he did not flinch. As the devastating attack was about to strike, he simply raised her fingers. With a gesture as casual as flicking away a fly, he met the blast. The golden energy dissolved into harmless, glittering dust. A collective gasp sucked the air from the hall. Before anyone could process the impossible sight, Yichen curled his fingers in a subtle, beckoning motion. An invisible, irresistible force seized Master Yi, yanking him off the altar. The self-proclaimed immortal flew through the air and slammed onto the marble floor at Yichen's feet, forced to his knees in a posture of utter supplication. The hall fell into a stunned, deathly silence. The god had been brought to his knees by a gesture, the impostor exposed in a single, humiliating moment of absolute, terrifying power. The golden light of the wedding hall warped, the air charged with an invisible current that made the fine hairs on every guest's arms stand on end. Master Yi's triumphant smile had frozen, a brittle mask of disbelief. In the center of it all stood Yichen, as he now called himself, his presence no longer that of a humble bodyguard, but an immovable mountain. "You are a fraud." Yi's voice cut through the stern silence, clear and cold as a winter river. It was not a shout, yet it filled the cavernous hall. Overriding the nervous whispers, he looked directly at the self-proclaimed immortal, his eyes devoid of fear. "You did not save Minga." "I did, just as I was the one who enlightened the father of the 9 dragon sons." A wave of confused murmurs rippled through the assembly. Minga, standing frozen at the altar, felt her world tilt. Her gaze darted from Yi's unflinching profile to Master Yi's sputtering outrage. The man had healed her. His pills, his miraculous energy, the Azure Dragon Chi, had brought her back from the brink of death. Everyone had witnessed it, yet Yi, the quiet man who had always been there in the background, now claimed credit with an authority that sent a shiver of doubt down her spine. Lies, sacrilege. Master Yi finally found his voice, his face contorting with theatrical fury. He pointed a trembling finger at Yi, playing to the skeptical crowd. "This man is a charlatan. We have all seen my power. We have all felt the divine energy I channeled into Miss Zhao." He turned his appeal to the guests. "You are all witnesses. This Azure Dragon Chi is a power only an enlightened master can command." Seizing on their uncertainty, he pivoted back to Yi, his voice dripping with condescension. "It was a fatal miscalculation, a challenge born of desperation. If you are her true savior, and explain it. Explain the Azure Dragon Chi that resides within her. Tell us, imposter, how could a mere mortal like you conjure such a divine force?" Yi's expression remained placid, almost bored. He did not deign to answer the question with words. Instead, he lifted his gaze to the vaulted ceiling, his lips parting to utter a single, resonant command that seemed to vibrate in the very bones of the building. "Come." For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Master Yi's lips curled into a sneer. But then, the air itself began to shimmer, bending the light from the crystal chandeliers into impossible rainbows. A low, powerful hum resonated through the hall, a pressure that made chests tighten and ears pop. High above the terrified guests, reality tore open. 9 ethereal forms materialized from the shimmering vortex creatures of myth and legend, their majestic bodies crafted from pure light and swirling mist. 9 dragons, each more magnificent than the last, their horns like ancient coral and their scales like liquid moonlight. Panic erupted. A collective gasp was stolen from 100 lungs, followed by shrieks of primal terror. Guests scrambled back, overturning tables and chairs, their belief in a safe, rational world shattered in an instant. This was not a projection, not a trick of the light. The sheer, overwhelming presence of the divine beings was an undeniable, terrifying truth. The dragons paid the cowering mortals no mind. With a grace that belied their immense size, they lowered their 9 noble heads, their luminous eyes fixed on the unassuming man standing before the altar. In a gesture of profound reverence, they bowed to Yi. Master Yi's face had drained of all color, leaving behind a waxy, gray pallor. His knees gave way, and he stumbled backward, his carefully constructed reality crumbling into dust around him. Before he could even form a coherent thought, the lead dragon, whose scales shimmered with the color of the deepest ocean, turned its ancient, piercing gaze upon him. Its voice was not a sound, but a force that bloomed inside every person's mind, an indictment that could not be unheard. "Thief." The word was a psychic hammer blow. "You siphoned our father's divine soul to fuel your pathetic parlor tricks and poison this innocent woman." The accusation was absolute. The crowd, moments ago terrified of the dragons, now found a new target for their emotions. Fear transmuted into righteous fury. "Fraud." Someone screamed, and the dam of civility broke. "He deceived us all." Another yelled, "Liar." "Blasphemer." The guests surged forward, their anger a living thing, their collective gaze a weapon aimed at the cowering Master Yi. Just as the chaos threatened to boil over into violence, the grand doors of the hall swung open. A path parted through the mob as if by an invisible force, and a man strode in, his presence an island of calm in the raging storm. He was Yi Yunong, the wealthiest man in the nation, his name synonymous with power. His tailored suit was immaculate, his expression unreadable, but his eyes held a steel that commanded immediate respect. He took in the scene the terrified bride, the cowering charlatan, the man radiating an impossible aura, and the 9 celestial dragons floating above them all. A senior member of a prestigious family rushed to his side. Master Yunong, you are a direct descendant of the Yi family. Tell us, which of these men is the true immortal ancestor? Yunong's gaze swept from Master Yi's pathetic form to Yi's quiet intensity. He gave a slight, formal bow in Yi's direction before addressing the crowd. The true face of our ancestor has been lost to time, he admitted, his voice steady and clear. Only legends remain. This sliver of ambiguity was all Master Yi needed. He scrambled to his feet, a wild, desperate hope in his eyes. You see, he is no proof. These dragons are mere illusions, grand tricks to deceive you. He shrieked at Yi. He ignored him completely. His focus was solely on Yunong, and when he spoke, his voice was soft, laced with an ancient, melancholic familiarity. I remember a boy who cried for an hour under the great banyan tree behind the old estate. He was 8 years old, convinced he had lost the family seal his grandfather entrusted to him. He paused, a faint smile touching his lips. It was in his pocket the whole time. Yi Yunong froze, his composure finally cracking. His eyes widened in stunned disbelief. That memory was a secret shame, a private moment known to no living soul. Visibly shaken, Yunong reached into his breast pocket and withdrew a small, unassuming jade bottle. It was plain, almost crude, with no discerning marks. He held it up for all to see. This has been passed down through our family's main line for generations. A sacred heirloom. The legends say only the true ancestor can activate it. Eager to seize this final chance, Master Yi lunged for the bottle. Allow me. He held it aloft, launching into an elaborate, theatrical ritual, chanting nonsensical words and waving his hands. After a great deal of effort, a tiny, sluggish trickle of murky, brown liquid oozed from the bottle's mouth. Behold, Master Yi declared, his voice booming with false confidence. Nectar and ambrosia, a gift from the heavens. 1 sip will grant you vitality and extended life. It was a testament to human greed and gullibility that even after witnessing real dragons, several guests, swayed by his showmanship, began to eagerly form a line, their faces alight with the hope of receiving a divine blessing. Yi watched the pathetic display, his expression one of profound disdain. He didn't move, didn't raise his voice. He simply spoke, his words carrying a chilling finality that cut through the avaricious chatter. I would not drink that if I were you. The silence in the grand hall was a brittle thing, stretched to its breaking point. Every eye was fixed on the so-called sacred heirloom, now resting innocuously in Yi Yichen's hand. Master Yi's face was a mask of disbelief and fury, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. An heirloom. Yi's voice was calm, almost conversational, yet it cut through the tension. Like a blade, he turned the ornate vessel over in his hands, a faint, almost pitying smile playing on his lips. He looked directly at Yunong, whose face had gone chalk white. This is no heirloom, it's a chamber pot. I gave it to your grandfather 3 centuries ago as a gag gift because he complained about having to get up in the night. A collective gasp swept through the room, followed by a wave of horrified whispers and stifled, incredulous laughter. Chamber pot, the sacred object the Yi family had venerated for generations, the source of Master Yi's supposed power, was a glorified bedpan. The disgust on the guests' faces was palpable. Yunong looked as if he might faint. His entire family legacy reduced to a cosmic joke. Lies. Blasphemy. Master Yi shrieked, his composure finally shattering. Desperation called at him. You dare mock the divine? I will show you its true power. I will smite you where you stand. He lunged forward, hands outstretched, and began chanting a frantic, guttural incantation. He tried to draw upon the artifact's energy, to force it to obey him one last time, but the artifact had already chosen its master. A low hum emanated from the vessel in Yi's hand, a sound that vibrated in the very bones of everyone present. Before Master Yi could complete his spell, a thin, silent bolt of silver gold lightning shot from the artifact and struck him squarely in the chest. Crackle, he convulsed, a pained grunt escaping his lips as he was thrown back several feet. The crowd recoiled, shrieking in terror. But it wasn't over. As Yi struggled to his knees, another bolt struck him, and another. Each strike was precise, a divine punishment delivered without thunder or fanfare, zapping him repeatedly until he was a twitching, smoking heap on the pristine marble floor. The artifact was not just disobeying him, it was actively rejecting and punishing him for his fraudulent claims. The message was brutally clear. This man was a charlatan. Ignoring the pathetic scene, Yi calmly raised the vessel. The moment his spiritual energy flowed into it, the ornate pot began to shed its mundane form. The intricate carvings pulsed with a magnificent, pure golden light, so brilliant it forced everyone to shield their eyes. The light shot upwards, piercing the ceiling of the hall, not destroying it, but passing through it as if it were mere vapor. High above, in the clear daylight sky, the golden energy coalesced, forming a single, colossal celestial character that blazed like a second sun. Yi. It was an undeniable, awe-inspiring display of divine authority. Yunong's breath hitched, his arrogance, his pride, his certainty, it all dissolved into cold, primal fear. He dropped to his knees with a thud that echoed in the silent hall. One by one, every other member of the Yi family followed suit, prostrating themselves on the floor. Ancestor, Yunong's voice trembled, thick with terror and shame. Forgive us. We were blind. We did not recognize our true ancestor. Please forgive our ignorance. Yi lowered the now glowing vessel, the celestial character in the sky slowly fading. His gaze swept over his descendants, his expression not of anger, but of profound, ancient understanding. Rise, he said, his voice gentle but firm. You have been separated from the main line for generations. It is only natural you would not recognize me. The fault is not entirely your own. His magnanimity was more humbling than any rebuke. Patriarch Z, who had watched the entire spectacle unfold with growing horror and rage, finally found his voice. The realization of how close he had come to sacrificing his granddaughter to a fraud sent a tremor of fury through him. Guards, he roared, his face purple with rage. Seize this charlatan, this monster. He will be locked in the deepest cell, and he will spend the rest of his miserable life repenting for his deception. The guards immediately moved to haul the whimpering, scorched Master Yi to his feet, as they dragged him away, stripped of his power and dignity. His eyes met Yi's one last time, not with hatred, but with the stark terror of a mortal who had dared to impersonate a god and was now facing the consequences. Through it all, Mingo had not moved. Her heart, once heavy with dread, was now soaring. It all clicked into place, the inexplicable healing, the moments she felt a protective presence, the deep, magnetic pull she felt towards Yichen. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a trick. It was him. It had always been him. He was her savior, her mysterious benefactor, the true immortal from the legends. Her gaze fell upon him, no longer clouded by confusion, but shining with profound admiration, relief, and a love that felt as ancient and deep as he was. Yi turned his attention from the departing fraud to the patriarch. A warm, gentle smile touched his lips, erasing the last traces of celestial severity. There is no need for such formality, he said, his voice carrying across the hall. Then, with a slight, respectful bow of his head, he added, "Father-in-law." The words sealed everything. It was a claim, an acceptance, a promise. Patriarch Jar's stern expression softened, relief washing over him. He nodded, a silent blessing passing between them. The efficient, looking utterly bewildered but sensing the monumental shift, cautiously stepped forward. "Shall we proceed?" The wedding was no longer a grim transaction, but a true celebration. The air, once thick with tension, was now light with joy and reverence. The guests, having witnessed a miracle, looked upon the couple with genuine awe. Yi took Minga's hand, his touch warm and steadying. He looked into her eyes, and she saw in them an eternity of devotion she was only just beginning to comprehend. The officiant cleared his throat. "Miss Zhao Minga, do you take this man, Yi Yichen, to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Minga's voice was clear, strong, and full of a love that had finally found its home. "I do, and do you, Mr. Yi Yichen, take this woman, Zhao Minga, to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Yi's gaze never left his beautiful bride. His reincarnated love found at last. "I do," he replied, his voice a firm, loving vow that echoed through time itself. The hall erupted. The applause was not mere polite clapping. It was a thunderous, heartfelt ovation. Cheers and blessings rained down upon them, celebrating a union that was not just sanctioned by law, but by destiny itself, the authentic, fairy tale marriage of the powerful, immortal ancestor and his beloved, finally reunited.